The Spot Track Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Welcome to the SpotTrack.com podcast. Welcome back to Paul Peck to the SpotTrack.com
Yeah,
podcast.
I missed a couple of them. You guys pulled off the big emergency Bryce Harper pod, which is great and terrific for you doing that, Mike. Obviously, one of the biggest contract stories in sports of this year.
History, yeah.
I was kind of bummed I missed all that.
Well, our listeners weren't. I mean, no, I'm kidding.
Now we
Come on, I had to take a shot at you, Paul.
For those of you who missed it, we had Robert Rayola back on, the sports taxman, with some just crazy numbers.
Yes.
I mean, bonkers. We can recap a little here just because it was worth it. $330 million. Paul, did you listen to the podcast?
I did not.
All right, take a stab here. Trivia time for Paul Peck.
Yes, this would be great.
Take a stab. Philadelphia. You've got the Pennsylvania tax plus the Philly city tax.
Okay.
Which Robert laid out for us. $330 million. How much is Bryce Harper going to net at the end of the day?
I'm assuming you're pushing 40% in taxes there, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to net $170 million.
Yeah, a little more, about 185 at the end of
Pretty
the day.
good.
That was a pretty good guess, Paul. I'd figured, a couple $100 million, right? But yeah, I'm still disgusted by that number.
It's crazy,
right? I mean,
now? I know there were potential offers from California teams that would have been. Were they worse? Were they better?
They were incredible.
I mean, with the taxes figured in,
even with them figured in, the Dodgers offered 4 for $168.
Wow.
I mean, that's a bonanza. That's what I wanted. Obviously, we talked about.
I guess the last thing, because I don't want to wait. We don't want to waste much time because you already did this. But you were on the shorter term deal kick all along. Why don't you think that was a reality, or why don't you think Bryce Harper was interested in that?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. I don't have an answer because it's certainly not what I would have done. But it sort of just seems like he wanted to be done with this whole process.
Okay.
I mean, he probably sees these NBA guys going through this every 2 years, and it's got to be exhausting. I mean, look at Durant.
Right.
Durant's a miserable guy having to talk about his free agent status. Well, you're the one creating that, right?
Sure.
So if you don't want that, sign a long-term deal. So I think part of it is that he's
not as miserable as Kyrie, by the way.
not right
See
now.
that the other day?
Other day. It's been a month and a half of miserable Kyrie, and with good reason. By the way, that Boston team is just a joke right now. Anyway, I just think that's probably the biggest thing here. Consistency is the best way to build a gunslinger in baseball. He's in a young franchise. There's kids all around him that can be superstars. It makes sense for him. Here's the thing, though. It's because they went 13 years, that tax salary is $25 million, and it's front-loaded.
Right.
So those back salaries of $22 million, that's very tradable.
Which is why the Eagles, which is why the Phillies were willing to give him a contract till he's 39 years. That appeared to be the general consensus of why would you, what's he going to be when he's 37, 38, 39? But I think the Phillies knew that and they didn't care, right?
Well, that's actually part of the contract. He's got to return kicks for the Eagles. So.
Did you see?
You know what? He could probably be one heck of a linebacker,
safety.
outside safety.
Yeah.
Did you see one of the first things he did when he got to when they announced him in Philly? He got on Twitter and started recruiting Le'Veon Bell to be an Eagle.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great.
Nice.
Yeah. Join the club, right?
Yeah.
Good
that was the Harper contract. Go back. That's episode number 68. You go back and listen to all our episodes, and Robert Rayola is fantastic on that. We're going to get into some football. But before we do that, notable free agents still in the market in Major League Baseball, Mike.
Yeah, guys who haven't signed.
Yeah, guys who haven't signed because the whales have now come into port.
Yeah, real games being played, spring training, it's full swing, and there's at least three or four guys that should have massive contracts right now. I mean, not just be on teams. They project to really nice contracts. Craig Kimbrell being probably the World Series winning closer. 31 years old, but still can do it. Guy wants $16 million a year. Guy wants $60 million, and he's not pulling off of that number. He's going to have to, right? If he wants to play.
You don't think anybody's willing to do even a 1 or 2 year deal with him at that rate?
He wants 60.
Okay,
he wants $60 million. He wants guaranteed money for the next 4 or 5 years, and I don't blame him. But from everything we've seen over the past 2 seasons now, I think that's not going to happen. So he's going to have to settle or hold out, which he said he will do. We'll see if he's, like a mid-April, mid-May signing somewhere like that for teams that need a closer.
Yeah, somebody will realize that they've got a good team in place without a guy who can finish games, and that's when they'll call.
By the way, it's the Red Sox.
Right. The fascinating thing is, and this is probably why he's not getting the money. We talked about this before Harper and Machado signed. Mm-hmm. If you look at the transactions, recent transactions, and they're all there at SpotTrack.com, aside from Harper, Machado, Arenado, and I'll throw Moustakas in there because he got $10 million.
Yeah.
Right? Gonzalez got 2 for $21. Everything else was 1 year, $2.5 million.
Basically.
1 year, $3 million.
Yeah.
Which, again, to those of us listening.
It's like minimum wage.
Minimum wage. I mean, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, it's just low level
it's the baseball
stuff.
equivalent of $7.80 an hour.
Well, we said this the end of this past season, but it's worth bringing up again because we're trending that way again. 2018 was the first time that the veteran baseball salary went down on average. So something's really happening here. This isn't just, smoke and mirrors. Something's really happening with these contracts. The extensions are great. I mean, obviously everything worked out as planned for Machado and Harper, and Arenado's contract is great. Patrick Corbin got a nice deal to start the year in Washington. So there's 3 or 4 guys kind of holding the fort down for the $1.8 billion that's been spent in free agency, which we talk about how nobody's getting signed, and then we see that number. But there's 4 guys that sort of hold the weight of that number, and then it really drops off from there. And to your point, the biggest thing is that the long-term deals are done outside of these massive contracts, and really most of them have opt-outs outside of Bryce Harper. So the long-term can be short-term if necessary. So it's kind of shocking. Here's the notable list, right? It's Dallas Keuchel. He needs a job still. Craig Kimbrell. Carlos Gonzalez is an outfielder. Adam Jones, perfectly, plausible center fielder / leadoff guy for any team in baseball right now. Outside of that, there's some utility guys, but I could find you a starting 9 in the available free agents right now that would look pretty good on the field in 2019.
I can't believe there isn't anybody that needs another starter that wouldn't be interested in Keuchel.
He must just want too many years.
Well,
he's got injuries. He had a bad year in 2018. He was real up and down. So I get it. His value probably couldn't be lower right now, based on what he's done over the past 5 seasons. But let's talk the Padres. I mean, if you look what the Padres did this offseason to add position players, and then you look at their projected starting 5 pitchers,
it's not blowing you away.
Yeah, you certainly could use a Dallas Keuchel on that rotation right now. Sure. So there's teams that need it. It's obviously a waiting game. They're trying to wait. The closer this thing gets to March 28th and that opening day, the more these values are going to drop on these guys.
All right, we're going to move to football and tag. You're it, Mike, because we've had some tag offers. So explain to me. Demarcus Lawrence and Frank Clark, notable.
Mm-hmm. Almost all pass rushers, too, right?
Grady
Pretty
Jarrett,
much.
defensive tackle. They've got offered franchise tag. So what does that mean, offered a 1-year franchise tag, as opposed to, is that essentially being tagged?
They've been tagged, but until it's signed, we claim it as offered because it's sort of just the elephant in the room until it's actually signed. They can't do anything about it until it's signed. They can't trade them. It's not guaranteed. It guarantees the second it's signed. I don't think any of these tags are getting signed outside of Robbie Gould, maybe.
Okay.
Who's getting $5 million to
like Jadeveon Clowney is not going to sign a 1-year tag.
He might have to.
You think
he
so?
He might have to,
okay.
Yeah. Of all these players, I assume he's going to have to because he's still in that show me, in that prove it sort of mode based on, his slow start.
His health is too has been a question.
And, I'm not sure they desperately need him in Houston. So
not with the big guy there. No.
I just don't think a multi-year deal right now makes sense for either of those two sides.
Yeah,
there.
Essentially these are retention devices basically. So
they used to be.
Well,
but they're so well valued.
Right. Yeah, I mean you hold the rights. I mean retention in that you hold the rights and give you the opportunity to continue to negotiate the long-term deals. But no, you're right, Mike. They become so much more adversarial. I thought Rich Eisen on the NFL Network Combine had a great analogy. He said when guys want it, they're offered the franchise tag. When they don't want it, they're slapped with the franchise tag.
Yeah, actually, Demarcus Lawrence is really the one to talk about here because this is tag number 2 for him. So you're looking at $20.5 million on this tag, and I don't think he's going to sign it, which is crazy. So this is going to be that scenario where we're going down a Le'Veon Bell situation possibly. This is a good transition into sort of our free agent outlook here, because the Cowboys are probably the most interesting team here in the offseason, just based on the publicity that they've created themselves. I mean, they've come out and said Dak Prescott's getting a contract. They've come out and said Amari Cooper and Zeke Elliott are getting contracts. Well, they've got this mega pass rusher in Demarcus Lawrence, who's been, top 3 in the league over the past 3 seasons. I mean, he's done it over multiple years now. And they had him on the tag last year. He was happy to sign it. He took his $17 million. Now it's tag number 2, and he has been forthright about saying he's not going to play out this tag. So, and look this is what he's worth. He's a $21 million guy. So you're looking at a Khalil Mack contract versus a $20 million franchise tag. I don't know how this one plays out, because if they keep him on the $20 million cap hit, which is what this is, I don't know how you get Prescott.
Yeah, you can't
Cooper
do all
Zeke,
those other deals,
I don't
particularly
know
the Prescott deal. You know, if they're gonna, as we've talked about, and in my opinion, overpay for Dak Prescott, you're paying him what, $25 million a year, roughly.
That's probably
starting quarterback rate.
Yeah, that's the Derek Carr number. That's where everybody's pushing him. Yeah.
So how are you going to handle all that? You know, and you know, again, this is where, to some degree, the Cowboys and having your owner be your GM and having your owner be so upfront gets himself into trouble. I love those guys. I love all my players. Well, guess what? They don't love you until you pay them.
Well, the smart money's not investing in the running back. Correct?
First of all,
absolutely.
I didn't realize
correct.
we were going to have impressions on this show today.
That wasn't
nice.
bad.
That was nice.
That wasn't bad.
We were missing that last week.
See what I bring to the table here.
No, that's good. I want to push back on that, because I've done a few polls on Twitter and things like that to gauge where people think this
those
should
are
go.
always right, by the way.
Oh, isn't that how we operate now?
Yeah,
that's how the president
Twitter
operates.
polls are always the truth.
I love when they do in the news. Our Twitter poll, like, really? Wow.
Come on, they're fun. I
agree with Lady Gaga, man. It's a toilet of the internet.
Well, it's how I make my money, Kevin.
Hey, a lot of people make money
Except
cleaning.
for Spot Track.
Listen to me. I know a lot of plumbers who make a whole lot of money, my friend.
So let me get this straight. Between the two of you, we hate Twitter and analytics. This is great.
No.
It's going to be a great
actually
of shows.
I don't totally hate Twitter.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I think it's used improperly by a lot. But anyways, listen.
Anyway,
I bet your Twitter poll says, yeah, Elliott makes the Cowboys run. And I agree. I'm saying investing in the long-term future of Elliott, there's a lot of miles on that car already.
Yes.
And I don't know. If I had to pick whom I'm going to invest in, like I think Dak Prescott can play, and I think he's pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to invest long term in him, but I'd sign him before I'd sign Elliott, because I think you'll go further with him. That's just my opinion.
It's the position. I think where Kevin is going, Mike, and we spent so much time talking about this. You always pay your quarterback before you pay a running back now, right? In every situation.
I guess.
I mean, look at the Giants. They have a great running back, but their
Prescott.
quarterback, the Giants.
Well, they're not paying that running back. I mean, they are, but they're really not.
But okay, when it comes around again, they've got to fix their quarterback issue, and they've got this great running back. But you're not going to. You don't win in the NFL now, and I mean win. All right, I'm talking. You don't win by handing the ball off and having this guy dominate. Your quarterback has to get you there.
But wait, we act like this team hasn't been together for 3 years. Like, Dak Prescott hasn't won. He hasn't won.
Okay, and neither did the Rams.
And they didn't. They were worse when Zeke
back.
Elliott was hurt. They were way worse when Zeke Elliott was hurt or suspended, whatever.
Sure.
There's a strong case to be made that Zeke Elliott is the most important Cowboy.
They were also way worse when their offensive line that had been the best in the league had a lot of injuries.
I will say this. I agree with you right now. Yes, Ezekiel Elliott is the most important offensive player on the Cowboys right now, today. Okay. Yes, I agree with that. Will he be 2 years from now, 3 years from now? I don't believe so, because of all of the carries that he's going to. I believe it's going to take its toll.
Agreed, but if that's how they think too, then signing the running back now is exactly what you should do. You do it now, before he's 26, 27, right?
When
you lock in those 3 years of guarantees now, because you think that's probably going to be it for him.
Get it done now. That's a fair point.
Get it done now.
But now I think of Gurley and how much of a cautionary tale right now is Gurley. I mean, how bad does that contract starting to look if he's never going to be the guy that he was because of this supposed arthritis situation?
He wasn't hurt.
Well,
Paul.
I'm just saying that now they're saying I know they're saying it's arthritis, which makes you go. That means he's not getting any better from that.
No.
So now, how bad does that contract look? How bad and how much to the point of never giving a running back big money? Is there another example of this?
How about never giving these guys time off to rest?
Well, that's part of it too.
These guys are just
year-round
Kevin. Training.
You're right.
It's fair.
All right, you got lots of stuff rolling around in your head here.
We didn't even get to Amari Cooper, who they gave up a first-round pick for last time.
Well, because they were trying to do something. You know, on one hand, I admire part of that, saying, "Hey, we feel we can make the playoffs and do something if we give our quarterback has to have somebody to throw to. And then they just signed a guy out of the ESPN booth. We haven't even touched on that yet.
We're getting there.
So they tried to make something happen. Jerry Jones is no spring chicken. He wants to win again now.
I don't hate the Amari Cooper trade. The more as it's sunk in via time, I don't hate it at all. He was a significant upgrade to their offense. Like Kevin said, he made Dak Prescott 20% better than what he was before, and you gave up what would have been a low first-round pick that you might have used on a wide receiver anyway. I have no problems with it.
Raiders traded him because they couldn't pay him, right? Just
Correct.
like Khalil Mack?
Correct.
Couldn't pay him.
Yeah.
Not because he couldn't play.
Correct. So I like that trade for the Cowboys.
Here's the thing: Zeke's making $8 million this year. Amari Cooper's making $14. I don't think
those are reasonable numbers.
You don't need to touch either of those if you don't want to.
I would agree.
Right?
Those are perfect actually for those players. That's probably cheap for Elliott.
Dak's making 2-1.
That's super cheap.
And that's a contract year.
Yeah, super cheap.
So if we're talking positionally and if we're talking just straight cash flow, yeah, you got to get Dak done. Right?
Absolutely.
If Dak's your guy, you get Dak done. You put him on a Ryan Tannehill-like deal.
And they brought Witten back to make sure that is their guy, right?
I think so.
If Witten's anywhere near where he was.
Let's get there now because it's twofold from everything I've read. Have you read this?
Oh, well, yeah. He wanted out of ESPN.
Well,
or he was going to be booted out of
ESPN was definitely going to boot him, but I'm pretty sure he's the next Dallas Cowboys head coach.
I'm with you completely. That's the first thing I thought of.
$5 million.
It's the first thing I thought of. He's going to play for a year. He's going to move into the coaching staff. He's going to get groomed, and at some or they're going to be revolutionary and let him go right from the field to being a head coach.
This is Jason Garrett's contract year too, and they've publicly said we're not extending you. Like it's all lining up.
Yeah,
and listen, they're doing the same thing with the defense. They're bringing back Sean Lee on like a $10 million cap, $7 million cash. The guy can't even play more than 4 games a year.
Yeah.
But same thing I'm hearing. He's just going to roll into the defensive coaching position. This is ridiculous. He realizes it's a hard cap league, right? And these guys all count. Yes. You got to play these guys.
Right.
So I get it. I mean, nice if you're really thinking that far ahead, but.
Well, I will say this: the booth was not the right fit for Jason Witten.
No.
We don't need to go
and it's a
down
very
that path,
cautionary tale. You'd think all these high-priced network guys would understand it. Not everybody can be Tony Romo and go from the field to the booth right away.
Yeah.
Tony Romo may be the only one who ever does it.
But you realize that he's about to go from the field to the coaching staff.
Yeah, that is also correct. Yes. No, you're
is that
absolutely
supposed to work?
No, it's not. That's the other thing that's crazy. That's just crazy. You know, have him go
but
right
it's Cowboys
to the head coach.
crazy, right? It's Cowboys crazy.
Wow.
Anyway, here's what could happen. If all of their dreams come true and everything they've said publicly actually comes to fruition, you could have Prescott at $25 million, Zeke Elliott at $16 million, Amari Cooper at $16 million, and Demarcus Lawrence at $21 million on new contracts in the next 3 months.
Chunk contracts.
So somebody tell me how that can happen, and I'll be happy to listen.
But the cap went up $11 million.
Yeah, but
right?
that doesn't matter. I mean, they've got tons of cap built in already. They've got cap space. But it's not enough to do everything I just said, unless you're literally tanking these first-year caps. You know what I mean? Which means there's not high signing bonuses, which means the base salary. It means the cash flow is going to be pushed down. And the Cowboys have done this before. That's a recipe for disaster. That's when you start getting into, we'll worry about it later mode.
Yeah.
And when you have to worry about it later, then you can't build your team at all. So you better hope that these 5 guys are good enough of a core to last for 3-4 years because you're not doing anything else around them.
Well, here's the other thing. Look at their conference, right? I mean, what makes them believe that they're going to advance out of their conference?
The Giants. The Giants and the Redskins don't have a quarterback.
Yeah, the division is questionable, but when you start to get into the Saints and the Rams and the Packers, and I'm with you, Kevin. I don't think they're who they are. They're likely to win their division or be a wild card, and not much beyond that.
I would say,
and I think that goes back to Dak Prescott. I think that's who Dak Prescott is. He's good enough to be a 9 to 10 win quarterback, but not good enough to get you to a Super Bowl.
Well, here's the other interesting thing in their division, and this may be looking at it. The quarterback for the Eagles is gone. Maybe. Wentz always gets hurt.
Yeah, maybe the best quarterback.
Maybe the best quarterback. I mean, Nick Foles.
The insurance for their quarterback is gone.
Well, he hasn't been, Paul. He's been more than insurance the last couple of years. I mean, who's finished the season for the Eagles? It's been Nick Foles. And he hasn't been franchised because they can't afford to franchise him. The quarterback position. You can't have you can't spend over $50 million, right, in your quarterback spot.
Yeah, it'd be a $25 million tag, and then you'd be hoping and praying he signs it so you can trade him.
Right. And if he didn't sign it, what were the ramifications if he didn't sign it?
it would eventually fall off.
Right.
He would.
But they still control. They still control his destiny and where he goes. Now he gets to control where he goes, and they did
him
a favor.
They absolutely did him a favor, and let's praise them for that, because as we in the world where that kind of stuff doesn't happen very often, and everything is very cutthroat, and the decisions are very straightforward. Give the Eagles some credit. They understood that Wentz is their guy, and it'd be great to have him as the backup, but financially didn't make sense, and I don't know how much market there really was for him to trade. Mm-hmm. So they basically said, hey, you know what, Nick, you won us a Super Bowl. You were a heck of a guy here. Go be a starter somewhere.
Did they do themselves a favor? And I'm seriously, Wentz is great talent, but when the games meant the most, Nick Foles was there performing. Won a Super Bowl for him, performed very well, I thought, for him down the stretch and in the playoffs. And they let him go. He's young enough, right? He's 29 years old.
Yeah, 30-ish. Yeah.
So let me ask you this question: if Foles played that well, he still could have been the guy for you, and you could have moved on from the other guy.
But I don't think they were ever willing to do that. Too much invested in Carson Wentz. And frankly, Carson Wentz has been really, really good when he's been healthy.
You could argue they have a lot invested in
draft
Foles.
Picks and everything. I don't mean money. I mean the trade and all that stuff. I mean,
you don't think this discussion had to have happened in the boardroom of the Eagles?
Well, I'm sure it did, and I'm sure it did. And I, like I said, I think it's erroneous to think that Carson Wentz isn't really, really good. He is.
I didn't say he wasn't. I'm saying you've got a guy who won a Super Bowl for you, a guy who got you back into the playoffs last year, and Nick Foles, and who's still young enough. He's going to play another 5 years, 6 years maybe. And I think that had to be a very difficult decision to find a way to not keep him.
Yeah, I could see it. Do you think the writing's on the wall with that franchise a little bit? That maybe their window's passed now? It feels like it to me. It feels like that they're going to sell some parts off here in the next month, and maybe they're going to step back a little bit. And
but they just re-signed Graham on the defensive line. I mean,
cheap though.
Yeah, but I mean those are the kind of things that if you feel like your window is closing, you don't bring a veteran guy like that.
I guess my
back.
point is,
but
signing
keeping
Nick
Wentz
Foles,
does mean they feel like maybe.
Think about it. Signing Nick Foles means we're in our window still. We're going 2-3 years on this because you're going to guarantee 2-3 years on that Foles deal. I'm looking at the Wentz contract here. This is year 4. They could fall off after this.
Sure,
it's done after this if they wanted. If he gets hurt again, if he's subpar, they don't exercise that 5th-year option and he's done. That's it. So they could start over through the draft, which is the right way to do it, as we know now from a quarterback standpoint. If you can do it, I get it. I get that they'd rather give themselves flexibility after 2019 rather than lock themselves into Foles and then force themselves to have to do everything else to maintain everything else because they're in this window. This way, if Wentz is the number 2 pick he should be, they still should win.
Let's face it. Keeping Nick Foles last year, bringing him back, was the feel good from winning the Super Bowl.
No, there's no way you could have gotten rid of him.
Right. And there's no way he felt like he wanted to leave. But now reality set in, like, you know what? I'm a starting quarterback in the NFL.
And let's be honest.
We can't have 2 on this roster.
Let's be honest, Kevin.
There he goes.
Not to take anything away from his postseason run, Nick Foles has been not great outside of the run to the Super Bowl. He wasn't great in the regular season before that. He hasn't been, to me, Nick Foles isn't good enough that I'm like, I'm all in on Nick Foles.
Nick Foles.
And they've got to know that too.
He hasn't been good outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, that too.
So that'll be interesting.
So now that leads you to the rumors about he's going to Jacksonville. I think he's been around long enough. He's solid enough that he should have some success in a place like Jacksonville. But for people to think he's going to come light it up, I don't know about that.
He knows a guy there.
He's playing for Doug Marrone, right?
No, he's playing for John DeFilippo.
Playing for his old offensive coordinator.
But I'm saying
he's going back into that Eagles system that he thrived in.
Right, and if their defense gets back to where it's been before,
let's get there.
Now you're not asking Nick Foles to be a 400-yard passing guy a game.
All right, let's talk defense here before we kind of swing around a little more. I've been tracking a lot of these cap casualties, a lot of these trade rumors, things like that. It's been a bad month for defense, and we saw this coming. We talked about this a lot last year about how the defensive money was about to go in the tank because these spread offenses with these depth guys, it was going to take 60% of these salary caps, and we're there now. The Chiefs and the Saints and the Eagles and those kind of franchises, they sort of broke this whole thing. The defense wins, and we got to pay our defensive players. There's a reason there's 6 tags on defensive guys. right, then there's not multi-year contracts for those guys. And there's a reason that 2 of those tags might get traded in D Ford and Demarcus Lawrence at the end of the day if they have to. So, yeah, the Eagles have made some small defensive alignments. There have been some smaller defensive extensions, but I mean real small. Most of these cap casualties have been on the defensive side of the ball. That's going to continue. It's going to get ugly here. If you're not a destroying pass rusher, that's going to be it eventually. That gets paid in this league.
I agree with you.
Side of ball. That's going to be it. Eric Berry's contract destroyed secondary money. It did. It just destroyed it. Josh Norman destroyed the cornerback money. It did. Do you even remember that Josh Norman's a Redskin year 3? I mean, really?
Gilmore's contract with New England seems reasonable at the time.
But they pay nobody else.
They paid nobody else. Correct.
Most of these teams are paying everybody and paying cornerbacks. Well, that's done now. That's done. You're not getting $16 million for a cornerback anymore.
I think you're going to pay 1.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The problem is you've got 4 wide receivers now.
That's correct.
So
you can eliminate 1 guy.
That's the problem. So the structure of the game doesn't align to paying 1 defensive player or anything anymore, unless it's the guy who can get to the quarterback.
Yeah, you even had the coach of the Bills remarking at the combine last week that yes, you need offense to win, although his numbers are a bit off. You need to score at least 21 points to win in the National Football League.
Make it 30.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
That would rank like in the bottom 5 in the league.
It was like in the bottom of the league. Yeah. Like you were already there, coach.
Yeah.
Right? You need to
get
yet, higher here.
But yet most
points.
people are, when you look at the draft and at this point, people are thinking somewhere between 20 to 25 of the 32 draft picks in the first round may be defensive guys.
Well, you got to play somebody, right?
You do, and what's the core line? Line with draft picks?
Cheap.
They don't cost any money.
Right.
So that's the thing.
Like news anchors,
and
Paul.
They're coming in as isn't that the truth?
Where's that combine?
Isn't that the truth? That would be a pretty.
That
cool
would be
combine.
awesome. Well, his measurables are pretty good.
Yeah.
This guy enunciates really well.
Imagine
Knows how to write a copy.
Imagine if there's YouTube of Jason Witten's ESPN combine.
Listen, he wasn't. Listen, I want to say this. I want to be fair to Jason Witten here, real quick. He was not terrible, but he was terrible for the spot he was put in. How's that?
If he was doing the 4th-ranked NFC game on Fox, it would have been. He wouldn't have been terrible. It would have been okay.
They put him in an unfair spot. I felt you're on Monday Night Football and you're following Tony Romo, your quarterback, who again, a natural at it, and to think he was going to do the same was completely unfair to Jason Witten.
Correct.
End of story.
Right. All right, so Foles is rumored to be headed to Jacksonville. It makes sense. Yeah. Jacksonville's one of those few teams that just doesn't have a quarterback right now.
So where does Bortles go?
So where does Bortles go, and what about the other teams that need quarterbacks?
Well, what other teams? Right?
Washington,
I mean, it's Miami and Washington.
Miami potentially.
I don't think Blake Bortles is there for option. But not even close.
Blake Bortles he'll be a backup somewhere.
I think he stays right where he is.
You think he stays in Jacksonville?
I think he restructures that contract. He's $6.5 million is already guaranteed. So if you push that over 2 years, that's a pretty good, backup quarterback contract. I think he stays right there and he becomes Nick Foles' backup.
You think he wants to or can handle losing his job and staying on the same team and watching?
I don't think he has a choice. I think it's going to have to be a Joe Flacco situation where he's just going to have to swallow his pride. Because if he goes anywhere else, he's not competing.
No, he goes in straight as the backup.
Yeah, so why not? Why leave? Why leave? And from Jacksonville's standpoint, why pay $6.5 million to a guy who could just be your backup?
And if you're Blake Bortles, you want to stay in Florida, as our friend Robert Ayola would
taxes.
tell you. You want to be there for the tax purposes.
Plus, he is a Florida guy, right? Bortles.
Central Florida, correct.
Yeah,
all right, how about the Redskins? Yeah. They are one of those teams that right now no one has any idea who they're starting.
I'm going to open this up to you guys.
Josh Rosen. It's going to be great, Paul.
Okay. That's a real rumor, right?
I know it's a real rumor. Yes.
Let's open it up. What? There's a million options here. Who are the Redskins? Is Alex Smith done?
I think is he done and not available at the start of this season.
I mean, done.
Probably.
So done.
Probably.
You know what? I don't know. Modern medicine now and the athlete, to come back. Boy, but that was gruesome.
It's done.
He's also 33 years old too. It's not like well, again, it's not like he's the guy that may replace him. Meaning Teddy Bridgewater, who had a similar horrific injury, but he was 24 when it happened.
If I'm the Redskins, let's forget Alex Smith's. The athlete always wants to come back for the most part. If I'm the Redskins, I can't count on him coming back.
Yeah. No way.
The guy's leg snapped in 3.
Ugh.
And supposedly his rehab will not make him available at the start of the season.
Right.
So are you going to wait for Alex Smith to come back in week 7?
I got to tell you something. I love the Josh Rosen idea. I love it. You don't?
Oh, for the Redskins?
For the Redskins. I love it.
They need somebody.
I think a fresh start for Rosen after, an up and down year and a team that's publicly just destroying him, right? I mean, even if none of this is real, why aren't the Cardinals coming forward and saying everybody needs to shut up? Josh Rosen's our guy. They're not.
Because NFL teams like to have people wondering what they're going to do.
They did that initially. Hang on. Though. They did it initially. They initially said Rosen.
No, they said what everybody says. Josh Rosen is our quarterback right now.
Right, he's our guy.
You think he didn't say that with a lot of thought into how he was going to say it?
I mean, they're clearly not behind him in Arizona right now.
No, my point is that was said for a reason, and it wasn't just a for now. I've learned that I don't believe any of this stuff. Steve Keim may have said that to get everybody talking and buzzing and wonder, what did he mean by for now? What did he mean by for now? I'm saying don't ever assume that things don't get said to make people go in other directions and try to figure out what it means.
You're discounting the mentality of this from Josh Rosen's standpoint. We joked about Kevin Durant having to answer questions about free agency every third day. What is going on in Josh Rosen's situation right now?
I think he's
every day he opens up his computer or opens up his phone, he's seeing more rumors about him being thrown out after 13 games in Arizona.
If the Cardinals have gone to him and said, "You
doesn't
can
matter.
ignore
Doesn't
all
matter.
this. You're our guy."
Doesn't matter. You still have to fight it every morning.
Listen, this is the NFL, which stands for not for long, Paul. They use an old line there. Listen,
and how many times can you cite me where a first-round pick quarterback wasn't back on his team in the second year?
This would be unprecedented.
So I know what you're saying, Kevin. It would be ridiculously unprecedented.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And here's the other thing
but the Redskins should do it.
Here's the other thing that bothers me a little bit. It not bothers me because I don't know where this is, but I think it's dangerous to assume that Cliff Kingsbury comes in with all this power and influence and to do. He has no NFL experience, none whatsoever. He basically was an offensive coordinator in college when they plucked him to be the job. You have an established general manager who has won there. I just think I don't know, maybe they are all in on Cliff Kingsbury. They're like, whatever you want, you get. I would be very surprised if that's the case.
You know what Paul's saying?
Very surprised if that's the case.
I think Paul's saying Cliff Kingsbury is no Jason Witten, is what he said.
I think it's fascinating. The whole thing is fascinating.
You're right. It's fascinating. I just think it's fascinating, and it's ultimately not ever going to happen.
But listen, if they're even having the discussion about moving on from a quarterback they drafted in the top 10 last year, right? Or was it slightly after that?
12, 11.
12 or whatever. Yeah. Still, top 15 pick. I mean, this is Arizona. They needed some things.
Let's
and if they're even having the discussion, if they're entertaining a trade for the guy, number one, if I'm the team looking to get him, I'm like, well, why do they want to get rid of him for Kyler Murray? If either they feel Kyler Murray's that much better, which how do you know? He hasn't played in the NFL.
You absolutely don't know because of his size.
Is his tape so terrible that they don't want to be with him? Or C, what's the other factor?
Well,
and that's why he fell.
There were other factors.
There were other factors, right?
Yes.
And, I'd love to talk to Larry Fitzgerald about this.
Yeah, clearly.
Because he's coming back.
I just want to look at it from the Redskins standpoint. The Redskins need a quarterback.
They need a quarterback.
So why not Bridgewater? Why isn't Bridgewater a viable option there?
I guess my question is, what are the options? If it's Bridgewater,
or why not drafting a rookie right off
Keenum?
I mean, everybody else started their rookies right away last year. Why wouldn't you?
What rookie?
Well, why don't you draft a rookie? Maybe they love Drew Lock. Maybe they think Drew Lock is the guy. Let everybody fight over Haskins and Murray. We'll take Drew Lock. He's our quarterback from day one.
But maybe they think there's an opportunity in their division, and they want an established quarterback. What about the guy on the Beltway there? I know what the deal's already in place, right, with Denver?
I think Keenum's going to go. Keenum's going to be available.
Right. So, yeah, Flacco goes to Denver. Case Keenum's available.
He's available. I'm trying to think
why
who
haven't
else
they
might
gotten rid of
fall
him yet?
I'm not sure. Well, the Flacco trade can't be official until March 13th.
Okay.
So it's just semantics, really. I think Keenum's got a real good chance to be the starting quarterback of the Redskins.
It's amazing.
Right?
You know what's amazing? The musical quarterbacks now.
Yeah, it's fun.
In the NFL. Well, I mean,
that's what I mean. If this Rosen thing really happens, everything's open.
It changes everything.
Everything's open.
Because that's been the one position that hasn't been musical chairs.
Yeah.
Because frankly, you're asking for trouble for it to be musical chairs.
Well, really?
But
hang on. But sorry, I say sorry to interrupt, but we interrupt on the show. It's
like first take.
Let's look at Minnesota and Washington, and the musical quarterbacks just happened last year.
Yeah,
you've had this is year 2 of this incredible shift. If it happens, Kirk Cousins goes from Washington to Minnesota. The 3 quarterbacks in Minnesota they had in camp, like how come they have 3 quarterbacks? They all went different places, and none of them. One of them started somewhere, and they're going to get rid of him the next year. And then you've got Alex Smith, who got traded to Washington, snaps his leg. They need another quarterback there.
Well, the injuries always change things. The Ravens always change things.
I know, but the Ravens have Flacco, and they started. Hang on, let me finish. They start the rookie, and now they're going to trade Flacco. Guys want a Super Bowl for him. I'm like, this is just baffling to me of how quickly they're moving on from quarterbacks. And it's just, hey, 1 year you weren't good enough for us, and the quarterback's got to be thinking, what the hell? I was here 1 year. Come on.
No, I disagree with you, Kevin. The musical chairs has not been on the front end. It's on the back end, so to speak. They didn't. Joe Flacco was there 10 years before they got rid of him. I disagree with you on that. That's why the Rosen thing would be unprecedented, because to draft a young quarterback and give him 1 year and then move on from it, that never happens.
Case Keenum he made it to the championship game with the guy, and they moved on from him for a guy who hasn't even made it and paid him a fortune. That's the front end to me. So I'll disagree with you there.
I disagree. I think teams are still, particularly with young quarterbacks, understand that it's not a 1 year process.
What I think it is, I think teams are seeing and I think the guy in Kansas City, why can't I think of his name right now? Mahomes. I think he's changed everything.
Well,
and I think Allen, perhaps, you need a dynamic quarterback now,
right?
Because offenses are changing, and to score points, you can't. I mean, we know pocket passers win in the playoffs, but to get there, man, you need to score points, and you need something dynamic, a player that can move, can do all these different things.
I'm going to globalize that a little bit more, because I think you're both right. I think every quarterback is on the clock right now, because the position has become so damn important. I mean,
well, it's always been important.
No. I mean, no. It's at a new level of importance right now because of the way these offenses work. I mean,
you just made that point, Kevin,
you don't even need Saquon Barkley, right? It's nice to have him.
Yeah, you're not.
But you don't even need Saquon Barkley on.
Correct.
If you've got 3, Deion Lewises, you can probably win.
The New England Patriots.
The Chiefs almost did without Kareem Hunt, right?
Yeah. Well,
I
want to say this.
My point is this.
You need to score a ton of points, and you don't need Saquon Barkley to get to the playoffs, in my opinion. But when it comes to the playoffs, you need to run the ball and stop the other teams.
But the Rams did it with C.J. Anderson.
I know, but they ran the ball.
They did.
They ran the ball.
I'm saying, to Mike's point, you don't need a stud running back per se.
But
no.
But you better have the good quarterback.
Back to the quarterback. I know you're supposed to wait 3-4 years and let things evolve and see if it works out. But
nobody waits 3-4 years.
Well, we've
for
talked about
anything
those
in the
windows
NFL.
collapsing.
Right.
These team building windows have collapsed
because coaches don't get 3 or 4 years anymore.
We're going to get to a point where in 1 year, if it ain't looking right, we're out.
Well, and here's why.
Out.
I want to go to this point where Paul said because coaches don't get 3 or 4 years, and GMs are getting less too. And here's the reason. Owners are making more money, so they can afford to move on quicker.
Right. I mean, the Bills have been buying out coaches for 20 years.
And let's be honest, you have a new. You're in the middle of changing to a new generation of owner that are not the Wellington Maras of the world that there used to be. You've got a new, hot, aggressive, made their money fast, egotistical group of owners that don't have any patience. And just go read the article about the Browns owner and what a buffoon he is. That's directly related to their lack of success. So I don't know that I don't agree with it, but you're starting to get a new generation of owners that think differently.
Well, and for the most part, it seems, anyways. I mean, I don't get to look at their tax returns, but it seems all the owners now in the NFL, their wealth is not in the team. There's a few that are,
right,
and it put their wealth. Like Jerry Jones is great wealth. He was rich. He's wealthy now. There's a difference, but his is from the team, but he's the most worth the most, that team, so we can leverage that. Other people, they make their money in oil, they make it in the internet, whatever, and they still get money from that. So it's like, this is my toy, boom.
Right. It's a video game.
As you mentioned, the Wellington Maras, the Ralph Wilsons of the world, these guys were were rich, but they didn't have just cash sitting around.
Also, their life was invested in the football team.
Yeah.
It was their life.
And there was a distinguishedness about owners back then, and I'm not saying that there isn't now, but there was. You were the owner, and you were the guy that stood on the side.
Go back to Jerry Jones
and watched.
Jerry Jones has been there 10 years too long, right?
He's the first generation kind of those guys. Yeah. All right, I know we had a couple other things you wanted to touch on.
Hold on. Last thing on Josh Rosen.
Yep.
His traded contract is 3 years, $6 million.
Wow.
If you can give up a third-round pick, which is what we're hearing, right?
Yeah.
For that contract.
That's incredible.
You got to do it.
You have to do it.
You got to do it.
I would ask for a higher draft pick just because it's so cheap.
That's
what?
Crazy.
I want a 2 because you're not going to spend anything on the quarterback position.
That's bonkers.
Yeah.
That's what
nuts.
I mean. The Redskins have to strongly be considering this if it's real.
Absolutely, they should.
Any later updates on the Antonio Brown saga that has riveted the nation?
You're making me talk about it.
It's riveted the nation.
Weren't you in the production meeting?
I know. I like him going.
All right. I'm not feeling bad for Antonio Brown. He's part of that new video service. You can get a celebrity.
You can rent a celebrity.
You can rent
a celebrity.
So, Paul, let's say it's your lovely wife's birthday, and she's a huge Steelers fan, and you want to do something special, and frankly, you've got money to blow, Paul, as we all know, and you want Antonio Brown to hold up his cell phone and record a message to say, hey, Sheila, that's not his wife.
Do you think he's wearing a 49ers jersey, though?
But he's like, hey, you notice my bleached mustache? That looks ridiculous, by the way. But anyways, hey, I want to wish you a very special 23rd birthday, blah, 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 whatever. Then Tony Brown said, so make sure you have a great day. $500.
Get out of here. Oh, my God.
It's okay. And his sample one, he's holding the phone. He's not even in total.
My brother-in-law got one from Sloan from Entourage.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, he loved it.
All right.
Wow. That's a good Sloan from Entourage is a good call.
A little better than AB, right?
All right.
Well, it depends. It depends.
Raiders. The Raiders seem to be a team that the Cardinals. I saw the Raiders and the Cardinals. The Redskins are teams that supposedly are being reported as sniffing around on a potential trade.
I don't care. I don't care.
Okay.
I'm going to put my foot down. I did it on Twitter yesterday. I'll say it today. The Steelers should not move this guy. I know they just went through hell with Le'Veon Bell. I know the situation. That's different. That was a franchise tag. They sort of forced their hand in that. This guy's under contract for 3 years. He's making $15 million this year, which is third among wide receivers, so nobody can complain about him being underpaid. He's 31 years old, making $15 million. He signed the contract knowing the Steelers structure. He restructured the contract knowing the Steelers structure. This is not a year where he's able to be moved. It's just not. It's not. The dead cap is astronomical. I know Florio and those guys have tried to break down this roster bonus into weekly payments to try to make it sound better for the Steelers to save cash on this guy. Stop. It's $21 million in dead cap now. It'll be $23 in a week. That's not tradable. And this guy's good, and if he wants to play for you, you'll take his 60 catches, and if he wants to hold out, you'll take the reduced cap and cash to have him when you suspend him for holding out. That's it.
Right.
That's 2019
Even
and Antonio
if you get
Brown.
A first-round pick offered to you?
Who cares?
Okay.
You get the first-round pick, and you get $21 million in dead cap.
Right. You get anything.
Is it really worth it?
In dead cap.
You're paying $21 million in cap for a first-round pick. That's ludicrous. That's not Brock Osweiler to the Browns. Remember that little deal?
Oh, yeah.
When they bought a second-round pick?
Yeah.
That's not that.
So what are their options here? I mean, if they're not going to trade him...
I think Mike just said there aren't.
There aren't, right? He either plays or doesn't play for them.
I'm not dumb. They're going to trade him. Somebody's going to offer a first-round pick. He's going to be a Raider. He'll go to Vegas next year. It'll be an absolute disaster. But, I mean, look, it's going to happen, right? But,
are the Raiders trading Derek Carr, by the way?
Boy. He's on my list. I did a trade list. He's on there because nobody said really no yet, right? They've said he's our quarterback for now, right? John Gruden keeps saying he's our quarterback
what if
for now. It's tradable.
What if they trade him to Arizona for Rosen?
Well, no.
Just saying.
I don't. No, they're going to draft somebody. If they're going to trade Carr, they're going to draft Kyler Murray. They're going to trade Carr and use all those picks to move up for Kyler Murray, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's the ultimate John Gruden move, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Or he likes Rosen. I mean, just saying he could like
trading one of those
else.
picks for Antonio Brown is an ultimate John Gruden move too.
Well,
but then
isn't it just Amari Cooper for Antonio Brown?
That's what I was just saying.
It's like a 1-to-1 swap, right?
Correct. Yes.
Except for one is 25 and cheap, and the other one is 31
and outspoken.
Yeah. The question with the Raiders is going to be, because you've got Gruden, who's an old school kind of guy, you got Mayock, who is kind of a traditionalist. Are they going to be living in the old way of doing business, or are they going to adapt to the new way of doing it?
Paul, we talked about this before the show. There's like 7 great wide receivers in this draft, and they're not all going in the first round, which means one of the, there's going to be like 3 of them that cost like $8 million for 4 years. So why is anybody considering Antonio Brown? Right? Why is anybody considering this? Why would you ever give up a pick
at
for
31 years old? Again,
I get it. He's a nice player, and he's probably going to catch 60 to 75 balls, right? Still, 7, 8 touchdowns, depending on the situation he gets himself into. But he could do that for Pittsburgh too. At the end of the day, wherever you're going, I mean, whether it's Oakland with Derek Carr, whether it's Arizona with, I don't know, whoever, Ben Roethlisberger is going to be just as good, if not better, at quarterback, right? And I realize he's probably a monster to work with. Clearly, I mean, there's been guys that have said this.
There's a lot of quarterbacks.
And Mike Tomlin may not be the friendliest coach to deal with,
right?
And the city of Pittsburgh might be a little tough to play for, but he signed the contract. He signed the restructured contract. He's getting paid good money this year. Shut up and play.
All right, final thing here before we go. Russell Wilson. You had a note about him you want to talk about.
Yeah, do you want to
Seahawks?
Do you want to mention the note that I had?
Mike's production note. Do the Seahawks hate Russell Wilson?
Well,
how could they hate him?
Well, this is a contract year. Is he Joe Flacco? Because he's the only quarterback recently that's gone all the way through.
In what way are you asking?
By not extending him.
How are there not
I thought
severe talks about him being the next big quarterback paid?
I thought he had a great year last year.
He was phenomenal on a terrible team.
He's been phenomenal.
They should have been a 4-win team. They almost made the playoffs.
Well, maybe they're trying to figure out what they're doing. Are we going forward with him, or are we going to rebuild?
Clearly, I mean, Colin Cowherd said what we've said months ago.
Remember, I sent you this.
He did. He put it out there nationally, and this is we had a quarterback conversation 3-4 months ago where we said, shouldn't the Giants be all in? If Russell Wilson is
his superstar
trying to get away,
wants to get to a big media market,
right. But we sort of saw this coming. If the Seahawks really are going to rebuild, then no, Russell Wilson shouldn't want to be there, and they should do right by him and trade him for 3 first-round picks, whatever it's going to be.
That would be brilliant by the Giants.
Totally.
And the Seahawks.
Yes.
And the Seahawks. Sure. Because this guy's not 25 anymore.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I think it's a move that should strongly be considered. Of course, they don't hate him. They're probably having these conversations right now, right? Like, what the hell are we? Are we going to have to rip this up again? Is Doug Baldwin going to get hurt again? I mean, all of their pieces sort of look like right now, And if they've got to change over everything, then Wilson shouldn't be the guy there. It should be.
Russell Wilson on the Giants makes so much sense.
God, talk about a big
so
three.
Much sense.
Talk about a big three.
To not have to take questionable quarterback in the because whether you take Murray or Haskins, they're questionable at this point because they don't have a body of work enough for anybody to say, oh, that guy's going to be great. Russell Wilson in New York would be a killer. And if you're going to use a first-round pick high, why not trade it for a guy you can get 5 years at high level out of? Makes so much sense to me.
I love it. Yes.
That's why it won't happen because it makes
probably
sense.
Not. You're probably right.
Hey, make sure what do you got coming up on Spot Track? I mean, all the contracts are there. Major League Baseball, the transactions, Dallas Keuchel.
Week from Wednesday, it's the big day, right?
That's right. Week from tomorrow.
Are we going to hang out in the Spot Track War Room?
Could do that.
I want to.
We should do it the Tuesday before, though, because that's when all the contracts actually come in, right?
That's true.
I am going to be at the Arnold Palmer Invitational and the Players' Championship.
Okay.
Boo-hoo.
Yes. And I just realized I'll be out of town as well.
Yeah.
Right, well, I'll be alone
covering basketball
with a hoodie on in a dark room, updating contact information.
But no, it's the day. It's the day to have Spot Track on your constantly up on and checking
also
every
my
minute.
Wife's birthday, by the way.
And you've got
on the dot, March 13th.
Wow, and you've got a baby coming here soon too. So there's a lot going on.
Other than that,
Spot Track headquarters has got a lot going on.
Live from the hospital room.
You could have planned those things better, Mike. That's
Yeah, you would think. You would think, right? An analytics guy like me couldn't figure that out.
Hey, this is a guy.
Marry somebody who was born in September and have a baby in August.
Listen, I'll just give this is a guy who we scheduled the delivery of our third in between hockey games I was announcing for the Sabres.
Literally?
Literally. I flew back from Arizona. We walked in the afternoon like, what's going on? Is she in labor? No, but we're here to deliver.
Yeah, it's
we
time.
We had it all set. We had it all set up before,
like
and then 2 days later went back to broadcasting. It was great.
Very nice.
All right, SpotTrack.com. Make sure you check out the premium section and some big things to come from SpotTrack. So we're looking forward to all that. For Mike Giannetti, founder of SpotTrack.com, Paul Peck, I'm Kevin Sylvester. We'll talk to you next time right here.